Ladies and gentlemen, please rise to honor and welcome the procession of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Accompanied by our gamelan from UiTM. And the Ohio University song. Procession is led by Dr. Ming Lee, Ohio University Director of International Studies, Vice Chancellor of UiTM, Dato Sri Professor Dr. Engineer Sahul Abdul Hamid, the Ohio University Trustee David Brightbell, Minister of Education Honorable Dato Sri Muhammad Khalid Nordin. We would also like to acknowledge the gracious presence of the wife of the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Please give her a big round of applause to welcome Yang Amat Berbahagia Datin Paduka Sri Rosmah Mansor. The entrance of the Prime Minister of Malaysia and entourage. Dr. Ming Lee, Ohio University Director of International Studies, the Vice Chancellor of UiTM, Dato Sri Professor Dr. Engineer Sahul Abdul Hamid, Ohio University Trustee David Brightbell, the Minister of Education for Malaysia, Higher Education Malaysia, Honorable Dato Sri Muhammad Khalid Nordin, the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Abdul Razak, Professor Dr. Habibah Ash'ari, Tun Razak Chairholder, Dato Sheikh Sulaiman, Ohio University Alumni, Pro-Chancellors of UiTM, Tan Sri Dr. Wan Zahid Muhammad Nordin, Tan Sri Dato Sri Utama Dr. Ashraf Ayu, Tan Sri Dato Sri Panglima Dr. Abdul Rahman Arshad, Vice President of Ohio University, Mr. Brian Benjamin. Please remain standing for the national anthem of Malaysia, Negaraku. Hadirin dimohon duduk. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly take your seats. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, salam satu Malaysia. Our guest of honor, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Abdul Razak, and Yang Amat Berbahagia, Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor, the Minister of Higher Education for Malaysia, Dato Sri Muhammad Khalid Nordin, our special guest, Yang Amat Berbahagia Tun Musa Hitam, the Ambassador of the United States of America to Malaysia, His Excellency Dato Paul Jones, our very special guest from the Kingdom of Thailand, His Excellency Mr. Surin Pitsuwan, who's also the keynote speaker for the Razak lecture series, our distinguished Pro-Chancellors of UITM, our distinguished Ohio University Board of Trustees, the Vice-Chancellor of UITM, the Tun Razak present and past chairs, and also our distinguished guests from the United States of America and distinguished guests from Malaysia, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and a very special welcome to the very special event this morning and a very auspicious occasion for Ohio University, the conferment of the honorary degree of the Doctorate of Philosophy to our distinguished guest, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, the Honorable Dato Sri Mohd Najib Tun Abdul Razak. Let's give our Prime Minister a big round of applause. Hadirin yang dimuliakan, ladies and gentlemen, we will begin the ceremony with the recitation of the Thanksgiving prayer to be led by Associate Professor Dr. Salahuddin Suryono from UITM. Bacaan doa yang akan dilafaz dan dipimpinkan oleh Associate Professor Madya Dr. Salahuddin Suryono.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ila hadrati Nabi Muhammad Mustafa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin, hamdan hamidin, hamdan syakirin, حمدا ذاكرين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم وعظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Almighty Allah, Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, Keeper of heaven and earth, Master of the universe. We thank you for your grace and the blessing you bestow upon us on this auspicious occasion in this august hall. Ya Allah, praise be upon you, dear Lord, for granting us the time, the health and the means to gather here and see through this event the conferral of the honorary degree to Yang Amat Berhormat Dato Sri Muhammad Najib Tun Abdul Razak, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, by Ohio University, in conjunction with the 9th Tun Abdul Razak Lecture 2013, after many months of planning and industry. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, let this meeting of mine be the vehicle that paved the way for the progress and success of the Ummah. Let this meeting of minds provide the platform to solve and resolve issues of concern for the Ummah. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, let not our heart weaken at resolve, let not our mind succumb to differences, let not our life fail to be filled with noble deeds for the good of the Ummah and the good of mankind. Allahumma ja'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma wa tafarruqna min ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'asuma. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد والحمد لله رب العالمين. تقبل الله منكم.
Minna wa minkum taqabbal ya kareem. Amin, amin, amin ya rabbal alamin. Terima kasih. Thank you to Associate Professor Dr. Salahuddin Suryono for leading us in prayer. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we will now continue with the welcome speech by the Vice Chancellor of UITM. Please welcome Dato Sri Professor Engineer Dr. Sahul Abdul Hamid.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam satu Malaysia and UITM sentiasa di hatiku. And a very good morning to everyone. Yang amat berhormat Dato Sri Mohd Najib bin Abdul Razak, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, and Yang amat berbahagia Datin Sri Rosmah Mansur, His Excellency Dato Paul Jones, the United States Ambassador to Malaysia, Yang berhormat Dato Khalid Nordin, our Minister, Pro-Chancellors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome and thank everyone for being here with us this morning and thus be part of history in the making. Because this morning we will witness two very important events in UITM's academic calendar. Firstly, we are honored that UITM is entrusted with the role of host for the 9th Tun Abdul Razak lecture, after having given the same responsibility by Ohio University to host the 8th Tun Abdul Razak lecture in 2010. Secondly, we feel privileged that in conjunction with this prestigious lecture, the 6th Prime Minister of Malaysia, Yang amat berhormat Dato Sri Mohd Najib bin Abdul Razak, will be conferred the Honorary Doctor of Humane Letters by the President of Ohio University. Hence, it's only fitting that I express my utmost appreciation to the OU President, Dr. Roderick McDavis, for giving UITM the honor to assist in hosting the conferment ceremony. I also like to take this opportunity to congratulate our beloved Prime Minister, Yang amat berhormat Dato Sri Najib, for such esteemed recognition bestowed on you, sir, by Ohio University. For us in UITM, it's a double honor that the honorary doctorate is conferred in conjunction with this lecture, which has been named in honor of Malaysia's second Prime Minister, Almarhum Tun Abdul Razak bin Hussein, Malaysia's father of development and also the father of present Prime Minister. There's an old Malay saying which goes, "Ke mana tumpahnya kuah kalau tidak ke nasi," which is similar to the English idiom, "chip off the old block." And now, over 5 decades, Yang amat berhormat Dato Sri Najib is carrying the legacy of his father in empowering the indigenous through education. Indeed, UITM is the manifestation of such a legacy. Truly, UITM owes a great deal to the late Tun Abdul Razak, because it was during his tenure as Minister of Education at a young age of 34 the precursor of ITM and UITM came into being. It would be somewhat cliche to say that UITM had humble beginnings, but indeed we did have a humble beginning. UITM started off as Dewan Latihan Rida way back in 1956, teaching indigenous school leaver skills such as basket weaving and managing simple accounting. And today UITM is home to over almost 200,000 students, 10,000 academics, and just as many administrative staff, serving over 20 campuses throughout the country, bringing education nearer to the community, through 24 faculties offering an extensive range of studies representing diverse disciplines, from diploma right up to postdoctoral. And today marks yet another milestone in our quest to be in the ranks of top-notch universities. Thank you once again to Ohio University for having us on board and for the long-standing relationship that has spanned over a period of 30 years, or in fact 50 years. It's heartening to know that Ohio University too has now become a significant part of the Razak legacy, not only through the establishment of the Tun Abdul Razak Chair in 1980, but also through collaborations which go way back in the 1960s when ITM was still in its infancy. We are indeed privileged to be in partnership with a renowned American university which has over 200 years of history and a long established tradition of great education. And we are also privileged that our very own professor, Dr. Habiba Ashari, has been bestowed the honor of being the 14th holder of the Ohio University's Tun Abdul Razak Chair, the second woman to be appointed, and the first chair from UITM. We are also most fortunate to have the privilege of a distinguished international speaker to speak on the occasion of the 9th Tun Abdul Razak Lecture. Hence, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the Secretary General of ASEAN, His Excellency Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, who is indeed a great friend of Malaysia and a familiar name among UITM academic fraternity. Thank you, sir, for making time to share your great thoughts and in-depth knowledge with us this morning, in spite of your busy schedule. Last but not least, to the guests of our country, I wish you a pleasant stay in Malaysia. And I think you all know that to know Malaysia is to love Malaysia. And I hope that you'll find this morning's historic occasion a memorable experience to be cherished when you leave for home. Thank you very, very much.
Terima kasih. Thank you to the Vice Chancellor of UITM, Yang Berbahagia Dato Sri Professor Engineer Dr. Sahul Hamid Abu Bakar. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now graciously call upon the Ohio University trustee member, Mr. David Brightbill, to present his speech.
Good morning. Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Before I proceed, I'd like to express my deepest regret that the President of Ohio University is unable to make it here today for this event. He was on his way and already in Narita airport last night, but inclement weather, snow, was made it unable for him to get his connection to Kuala Lumpur. So Dr. Davis offers his profound regrets and apologies to the Honorable Prime Minister and our distinguished speaker and president and all present this morning. And I'd like to say on my behalf that I am honored to have this opportunity. Malaysia and Ohio University have a long, long history, and this is quite an honor. Prime Minister Najib, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, greetings and welcome. It is a great privilege for Ohio University to confer an honorable degree upon the Honorable Dato Sir Mohd Najib bin Tun Abdul Razak. Ohio University is very proud of its special friendship with Malaysia, the Malaysian government, Malaysian higher education institutions, including our host for this event, for this Razak lecture, UITM. The fostering of this relationship resulted in the expansion of understanding and appreciation for Malaysia and its vital role in Southeast Asia and our wider world. On behalf of Ohio University's Board of Trustees, faculty, staff, and students, I share our appreciation for this partnership that has developed between our two countries. It has fostered cross-cultural understanding and Malaysian-American perspective. Most notable to this partnership is the Tun Abdul Razak Chair, named in honor of the second Prime Minister of Malaysia and housed in Ohio University's Center for International Studies. The Razak Chair is a unique, historic, and extraordinary venture in higher education. 14 senior Malaysian scholars have held the Tun Abdul Razak Chair since 1981 and have developed firsthand knowledge of the American people and American society by living and working in the United States. This important partnership has made significant contributions to Malaysian-American understanding in its 35 years. Such achievements include the education of more than 2,400 Malaysian citizens. I think this is the largest contingent of alumni in the world outside of the United States. The cross-cultural experience gained by Ohio University students from the past and current Razak chairs, the international expertise in Malaysia and Southeastern Asia obtained by more than 100 Ohio University professors who have taught and conducted academic activities in Malaysia, the expanded partnerships and the establishment of the finest research collection on Malaysia in North America, and we're very proud of that. The partnership has also resulted in a substantial number of American and Malaysian scholars with firsthand knowledge of Malaysia and the United States. From having lived in these countries, forging personal connections, this kind of learning is very critical to the future of our countries and our world. The partnership has helped to place Malaysia on the world map. It made Ohio University's Alden Library the largest repository of Malaysian materials and publications in any North American university. It fostered the development of the university's Southeast Asian Studies program into a recognized premier training site to acquire scholarly expertise about Malaysia and the ASEAN region in the United States. We thank the Malaysian government through the Ministry of Higher Education for their continued support of the Razak Chair. In recognition of this important support, we are very honored to confer an honorary degree upon Prime Minister Chung of Mohd, Dato Sar Mohammed Najib bin Tun Abdul Razak. Excuse me. A national and international leader accomplishments accomplishments have positioned Malaysia for the success and international recognition it has received. We look forward to honoring his achievements with an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters. We also want to express our deep appreciation to Yaya's son, Sim Darby, Yaya's son, Al Bakuri, and the Dato Li Shin Cheng Foundation for their recent generous donation to this important endeavor. Without international education, exposure to new cultures, ideas, and people, experiences would be lost. Having the opportunity to gain this kind of experience helps foster cross-cultural understandings. Ohio University's partnership with UITM fosters this kind of important educational opportunities. Our historic partnership began in 1968 while I was a student, actually. Ohio University was privileged to collaborate with UITM as it developed into one of the most influential institutions of higher education in Malaysia and to contribute to establishing its business school. Another example is Ohio University's now completed MBA program with TNB. This initiative represented a pioneering partnership between higher education and the private sector in Malaysia. The program subsequently replicated the Sarawak Civil Service in Kuching. UITM is an invaluable partner, a most gracious and generous host. Thank you for hosting the 9th Tun Abdul Razak Lecture and for your contributions and efforts in planning of this memorable and historic day. We also want to thank Dr. Habib Asar for the current Tun Abdul Razak Chair for sharing her knowledge with our students, faculty, and staff, and for organizing this wonderful event. We want to acknowledge our alumni who are with us, most notably the president of the Malaysian chapter, Dato Shah Soliman Ismail, there, who is representing our alumni during this ceremony. We are very honored that Malaysia is our friend and partner in international education. Together we are fostering the development of worldwide scholars who will make a positive impact on the future of our countries and our world.
Ladies and gentlemen, the presentation of the citation of the conferment of the honorary degree by Trustee David Brightbell.
It is my great honor to confer the honorary degree, Doctor of Humane Letters, upon Prime Minister Najib. A graduate of the University of Nottingham, England, Prime Minister Najib bin Tun Abdul Razak has committed his life's work to the people of Malaysia. He has made extraordinary contributions to the education in Malaysia and has demonstrated commitment to the democratization and modernization of his country. As Prime Minister, he actively works to address society's most pressing problems and creating opportunities for those who are in need of such support. Prime Minister Najib has been a friend of Ohio University for many years. opening doors for the university in Malaysia, and helping establish linkages with government agencies and academic institutions. We are very honored to confer an honorary degree upon Dato Mohd bin Tun Abdul Razak today. Vice President Benchoff and Dr. Lee, would you please join me to assist in the conferral of this degree upon Prime Minister Najib? Prime Minister Najib, would you join us?
And now the second citation by Dr. Min Lee.
Thank you, Trustee Brightbill. It's my great honor to read the citation for the honorary degree Doctor of Humane Letters as presented to Prime Minister Najib. First elected as a member of Parliament in 1976 at the age of 23. You are the youngest member of the Malaysian Parliament ever to be elected. You have served your country with distinction, including your previous service as Malaysia's Deputy Minister of Energy, Telecommunication and Post, Deputy Minister of Education, Deputy Minister of Finance, Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports, Minister of Education, Minister of Defense, Minister of Finance, and Chief Executive of the State of Pahang. Your accomplishments as a national and international leader encompass education, democratization, peaceful international relations, and creating opportunities for the less privileged. You have been a strong supporter of the relationship between Ohio University's Alden Library and the National Library of Malaysia, helping Ohio University build one of the strongest library collections on Malaysia and Southeast Asia in North America. You have been a very special friend and a supporter of the Tun Abdul Razak Chair. As Minister of Education of Malaysia, you transformed Malaysia's aspiration to become a fully developed nation by the year 2020 into concrete educational policies and plans. You restructured the ministry, created an independent administrative structure for public universities, and encouraged collaboration with foreign universities and institutions. You were instrumental in the design and approval of the 1996 Private Higher Education Institutions Act, which allowed foreign universities to establish degree conferring schools in Malaysia. As Prime Minister, you have built ethnic unity in Malaysia and are an internationally respected leader who has played major roles in Southeast Asian affairs. At United States President Barack Obama's request, you played a key role in the summit to discuss international nuclear disarmament. Your outstanding contributions to society include your leadership of Malaysia's education modernization, defense of ethnic unity, equal opportunity, and multicultural democracy, promotion of democratic governance, and government transparency and citizen participation.
And now the conferment of the honorary degree by the OU Board of Trustees.
Mohd Najib bin Tun Abdul Razak, in recognition of your achievement and by the virtue of the authority of the Board of Trustees of Ohio University, confers upon you the honorary degree Doctor of Humane Letters with all the rights, privileges pertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, Vice President Benchoff and Dr. Min Lee will now together present the Doctor of Human Letters Hood to the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Congratulations, Tahniah. The Prime Minister of Malaysia, Dato Sri Dr. Muhammad Najib Tun Abdul Razak will now present his acceptance speech. Silakan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam satu Malaysia. Yang berhormat Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid Nordin, Minister of Higher Education. Yang berbahagia Datuk Seri Profesor Dr. Sahul, Vice Chancellor of UITM. Mr. David Bright Bill, Trustee Member of Ohio University, distinguished Pro-Chancellors, distinguished members of the Academia of Ohio University and UITM, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is my great pleasure to join you today and to humbly accept this honorary degree. To any students in this room, I can only apologize. This doctorate was conferred without the inconvenience of essays, examinations, or late-night cramming. It was not earned in the same way you are earning yours. But I am truly honored to accept it nonetheless, for it stands as a reminder of the enduring connection between Ohio University and our country. Ladies and gentlemen, 4.5 decades ago, scholars from Ohio reached out across the world. At a conference in Nigeria, members of Ohio faculty met with their counterparts from one of Malaysia's leading universities and agreed to work together to design a new curriculum. It was the beginning of a relationship which lasts to this day. Back then, our nation was newly independent. Only 6 years had passed since the end of colonial rule, and although we had many natural resources, the path to modernity was not straightforward. We had set up a new nation, but we still had to forge a new social consensus and transform our economy. We needed dynamic entrepreneurs, strong institutions, and business-friendly civil servants. It is against this backdrop that Ohio University staff worked with the Mara Institute of Technology to develop programs in business, accounting, and communication. Many of the Institute's Malaysian staff and students traveled to Ohio to study. When Malaysia reached out, Ohio University stood willing to assist, committed to the core courses of cooperation and education. Both parties embarked on a partnership that would bring great benefits to both sides. Today, the Mara Institute of Technology, or UITM, is the largest public university in Malaysia, with more than 20 campuses and almost 200,000 students. And more than 2,400 Malaysians hold degrees from Ohio University, making it the largest alumni group outside the state of Ohio. Many of these graduates have made a significant contribution to our workforce. Engineers trained in Ohio built the bridges and buildings on which Malaysia's modernization depended. Accountants and business graduates helped create a strong and internationally competitive private sector, and teachers and professionals ensured that the skills learned in Ohio were embedded within Malaysia's institutions. Ohio University played a very real part in our national development at a time when much attention is focused on the rise of Asia. Its contribution to our history will not be forgotten. It is fashionable now to frame the growth of the East as an existential crisis for the West, to claim that two powerful civilizations must inevitably come into conflict rather than cooperation. The relationship we are celebrating today offers an alternative view. During its time of economic dominance, scholars and students from the United States invested their energy in an emerging nation. Academia has often looked beyond borders, but Ohio University reached across them. I am pleased to say that it has not always been one-way traffic. Since 1987, Ohio has been designated the sole depository for Malaysian books and journals in North America. The Malaysian Resource Center at the Vernon R. Alden Library houses the finest and largest collection on Malaysia in the Americas, helping the further understanding of our culture and our history. And of course, the Tun Abdul Razak Chair, named after my father, brings senior Malaysian scholars to Ohio University's Southeast Asian Studies Department. In fact, there is a long history of educational exchange between our regions. In 1968, when this partnership was just beginning, a young student from America moved to Southeast Asia. He began his studies there before returning to the United States, where I believe he made quite a career for himself. Last time I spoke to him, he was working in an Oval Office on Pennsylvania Avenue. Of course, not all foreign students will become president, but they all stand to benefit from the cultural and academic experience that comes from studying abroad. I know well how beneficial it can be to learn a new culture as well as a new curriculum. As a young boy, I too left my homeland to pursue my education. I waved goodbye to my beloved Malaysia and made Malvern, a very rural part of UK, and later in Nottingham, the land of Robin Hood. I have never forgotten the sensation of finding myself in a new country, excited about its intellectual possibilities, but at the same time apprehensive about the cultural differences. I felt that sensation again a few years ago as I watched my children leave for American colleges. Like many Malaysians before them, and like some of those in the audience today, they traveled the better part of 10,000 miles to follow their studies. They went in search of knowledge, skills, and opportunity, but they also found many friendships. In an age when immigration has soured some societies, America remains one of the most open and welcoming nations on earth. People go there to find themselves, to find new opportunities to be part of a vibrant and important culture. Often they are greeted with the warmth and openness that some nations reserve for family. The hospitality and kindness of the American people remains one of its greatest assets. And as thousands of young Malaysians have discovered, Ohio University embodies the very best of these values. Its commitment to academic excellence and international partnership is matched only by the respect which it treats its students, foreign and local alike. Ladies and gentlemen, Ohio University has been a friend of Malaysia for 5 decades. Its scholars helped create this prosperous, secure, and confident nation at the heart of one of the world's most vibrant regions. As we look to build on our successes, the experience and skills this partnership has brought will stand us in good stead. And so I am delighted to accept this honorary degree in the spirit in which it is conferred, as a marker of the bond between our universities, our people, and our nations. I thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Terima kasih. Thank you to the Honorable Prime Minister of Malaysia, Dato Sri Dr. Mohd Najib Tun Abdul Razak. And congratulations and welcome to the Ohio University alumni. Before we present the Prime Minister with the special presentations, may I also introduce the Razak chairholders who are here. Please rise so the Prime Minister can see you. The 2 Razak chairholders, Dato Wira Dr. Muhammad Saleh and Professor Dato Dr. Zakaria Ahmad. Let's give them a big round of applause. 14 altogether. Some are retired, some are just resting, and 1 is at the back of the chair. And we also have the distinguished alumni, those graduated from Athens, Ohio, and those graduated from the UITM campus in Shah. Please rise so the Prime Minister can see you. All the Ohio University alumni. They are holding very important positions in Malaysia. Congratulations. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now continue the program with a very special presentation. May I invite the OU trustee to present the Prime Minister the special citation that was read earlier for the Prime Minister to place it in a very special area in his office. Congratulations. And the Ohio University Board of Trustees also will now present another gift. This is for the Prime Minister to enjoy his tea, and this is a set of Wedgwood from Ohio University. And now we will have the photo session to record this very special and auspicious event. May I call upon the Ambassador of United States of America to Malaysia to accompany the wife of the Prime Minister, Datin Sri Roswah Manso, on stage for this very special photo session. And we also have the distinguished Razak lecture series in conjunction with this event. May I invite His Excellency, Mr. Surin Pitsuwan, Kun Surin Pitsuwan. We tell him, Sawadee Krap and Jindi Tuan Rap Krap, which means welcome to Malaysia. I think the Prime Minister deserves a big round of applause from all the alumni and all the guests to say thank you. Thank you, members of the photographers. With this note, we end this auspicious event. We thank the Prime Minister, congratulations, and the Prime Minister and entourage will take his leave with a very special departing procession. Please rise. May we invite the first row distinguished guests to follow the procession. We'd like to remind that all the guests to please stay for the distinguished Razak lecture series by His Excellency Surin Pitsuwan. We have a very special singer from UITM, Nur Farhana, to entertain you. And we invite Nur Farhana. Silakan. Please give us 5 minutes for a short entertainment before we commence. Thank you. Boleh bagi tepukan sikit tak untuk Nur Farhana? Nur Farhana, please be on stage. Naik tementas.
If you look inside your heart, you don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer if you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. And then Hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fears aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. fear aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like home is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. Ooh, love knows dreams are hard to follow, but don't let anyone tear them away. Oh, there will be tomorrow. In time, you find a way. And then hero comes along with the strength to carry on, and you cast your fear aside, and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside you and be strong, and you finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. That a hero lies in That a hero lies Thank you. Andai permata jadi hiasan, jadiku muda semua lukanya, bagai sutera dalam lukisan hidupku indah. Baru menunggu, asma menunggu kamu jadimu, mekar harumnya seri halaman, hendak ku minum mustika embu agar tersuai indah. Bukan racun berbisa, semoga akan diberkati. Begitulah impian selagi nyawa di badan. Pintaku padamu minta, kirimkan aku sinarmu. mekar harumnya suri halaman, hendak ku minum mustika empu agar bersua indah.
We are also having a Q&A, question and answer session. If you like to reserve your questions, when you do so, please introduce yourselves and which organization you're with. And there are microphones at the aisles and in the middle. So please go to the microphone and ask. And the speaker will be glad to answer. We are showing you our distinguished Tun Razak chair personnel, very distinguished, 14 of them. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, please rise. A short introduction of our keynote speaker. His Excellency Dr. Surin Pitsuwan is a graduate with a Master's of Arts and a PhD from the prestigious Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1974 and 82 respectively in the field of political science and Middle Eastern studies. And he also taught at the Faculty of Political Science at the Thammasat University from 1978 to 83 and 84 to 86. And also, ladies and gentlemen, he was the Secretary to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Chuan Lek Pai, Secretary to the Deputy Minister of Interior, Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs during 92-95 and Minister of Foreign Affairs 97-2001. He served as Chair of the ASEAN Ministerial Meeting and the Chair of the ASEAN Regional Forum in 1999-2000. And for your information, ladies and gentlemen, his entire biography, concise one, is in the program book. So we will save time because the Prime Minister has to leave in half an hour. There will not be a Q&A if the Prime Minister says till the end. Otherwise, you can still pose your questions and answers. So ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our very special keynote address speaker, His Excellency Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, Jindi Tonrap Krap. Welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Don't worry, I'm not reading the khutbah. Your Excellency, Dato Sri Najib bin Abdul Razak, Prime Minister of Malaysia, Tun Musaitam, Ambassador of the US, Paul Jones, trustees of the University of Ohio, Ohio University, and Vice Chancellor of University Technology Mara. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of you. The Prime Minister said he never had to study for the honorary degree. Now he has to suffer through this lecture. And of all the times that we have been working together under your guidance, Your Excellency, I have had the privilege of receiving your wisdom, your guidance, your caution, your warning, and your advice. But this time, I must say, I envy you a lot. Because you are really having the best of both worlds. I know you are in the midst of the campaign, and this is not a campaign speech. But you have the best of both worlds. A Nottingham education and an Ohio degree. Congratulations. You asked me to talk about ASEAN in the political and the economic contexts of the global community. You know, late Tun Razak played a very, very influential role in setting up this organization, which is 46 years old. Prior to ASEAN, Tun Razak was instrumental in setting up what he called ASA. And ASA was only Thailand, Malaysia, and the Philippines. And he mentioned in one of his speeches that countries in the region must come together in order to interact with the world on a platform that is more solid, on a platform that is more diverse, on a platform that is stronger and more influential. You remember 1967 when ASEAN was born? It was less than a decade of the Afro-Asia Conference in Bandung. And at that time, the heavyweights of the world, newly independent world, Nasser of Egypt, Tito of Yugoslavia, Zhou Enlai of China, Nehru of India, Nkrumah from Africa. I believe Nyerere was there too. These were the luminaries and the heavyweights of the world at that time. Even Sukarno thought Southeast Asia needed something for ourselves. And it was Tun Razak, it was Rajaratnam of Singapore, it was Ramos of the Philippines, father of President Ramos, and Thanat Khoman of Thailand. Together, they decided we needed to create something smaller so that we can be ourselves, keeping our identities and behaving like ourselves, not having to be led and influenced by others. That's ASEAN. But through the years, ASEAN has transformed itself to something more than just a regional club. It has become 10. Our GDP combined now, 2.4 trillion US dollars. Our trade among ourselves and with the world, $2.6 trillion. And there are 3 countries among us that are becoming what we call the higher income countries. One is Singapore, one is Brunei Darussalam. Malaysia is going to make it there before 2020. And Dato Najib, you have all the credit for what Malaysia is doing now. It's the 10,000 per capita income that is the dividing line between middle income countries and higher income countries. Malaysia now is 9,500. You are $400-500 away from being a higher income country before 2020 for sure. Congratulations. Now, with the shift of global center of dynamism from the west to the east, ASEAN happens to be sitting in the middle of that firmament. We are now holding what we call the centrality role. We are now offering forum and fora for all diplomatic and economic dialogues and discussions going on in this region of new prosperity. We were 10, and then we were 10 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. We became 10 plus 3. That was 1997, in the midst of the first financial crisis that we faced. Dr. Mahathir called the 3 leaders of East Asia, Japan, Korea, and China, to the Palace of the Golden Horses. That was my first time as full Minister of Foreign Affairs of Thailand. That was the first time that ASEAN plus 3 was born officially. Before that, it was EAEC, if you remember, East Asia Economic Caucus. We were prevented from creating that East Asia Economic Caucus, and Pak Mahathir was frustrated, but certainly patient. The opportunity came when we all fell down with that crisis in 1997, which began, I'm happy to say, in Bangkok, Thailand. It's the Tom Yam Goong syndrome, they call it. Hot, sour, and extremely spicy. Good for your cold. And it was good for all our cold. Since then, we have stood firm, we have replenished our foreign exchanges, we have done the transformation and reformation in our corporate management. We were quite ready when the global crisis came in October 2008. That was when the West went down. And you know the description, the prescription that they gave us in 1997, Ambassador Jones? Keep the budget in surplus, keep the interest high, let all companies that are not doing well, let all financial and banks institutions fail. Let's listen to the logic of the market. This time around in Europe and in North America, they said there are some who are too big to fall. Not quite the same prescription. But we survive, and we survive well. Now, not just ASEAN plus 3, but ASEAN plus India, Australia, New Zealand, plus 6. East Asia Summit took place here in 2005 when we instituted something that we call the East Asia Summit under Pak Abdullah Badawi. Again, Malaysia in the lead. Thank you very much. Two years ago, we decided there were two elephants still out of the tent. Not one, not 10 plus 6. Russia and the US must be brought into this EAS. That's why that former foreign student who came to Southeast Asia and who is now sitting in the White House has been with us 2 times already at the EAS. And you were there, Mr. Prime Minister. Thank you, Malaysia, for that initiative. ASEAN is doing quite well in that center of gravity. They gave us what they call the role of centrality. They listen to us, they come to us, they let us lead, they follow. But be careful. We could be led from behind too. ASEAN is supposed to be integrated well into a community by the year 2015. And you know who is going to be in the chair of ASEAN in the year 2015, celebrating the community and announcing to the world that we have made it into the global age. You know who will be sitting in the chair of the year 2015? Malaysia. Congratulations. And I think Dato Najib is trying very hard to be there in the chair. I don't want to get involved into your internal politics. But ASEAN is doing what others are not capable of doing. Not because they are not rich, not because they are not powerful, not because they are weak, but because each and every one of them have historical baggage. You can imagine Japan and China now. You can imagine Japan and Korea now. You can imagine Japan and India now. Anybody who wants to make an entry into East Asia will have to come through ASEAN. We have to deliver. And we have been delivering. We have been doing well in the face of all these economic downturn. Our growth in the region is close to 6% on the average. Malaysia will be more. When the West is recovering, and it's a yo-yo when they are going to be fully recovered. So President Obama is now pivoting toward East Asia, and he has to come to the ASEAN Forum and Fora, because this is where it is legitimate, this is where it is overarching, covering the entire region. This is the only forum that exists. It was Henry Kissinger who said in the 70s, last century, East Asia, as far as technology, prosperity, innovation is concerned, it is 20th century Europe. That was last century. But as far as institutions, processes, and systems to take care of any crisis and accident and incidents among themselves, they are still 19th century Europe. That's why ASEAN has to play that role, the role of centrality. Because there is no other institution or process or framework that could guarantee. And why are they so interested in East Asia now? The European wants to be at the desk, at the table of that EAS with us. Brazil would want to come. Turkey would want to come. And can we keep them out? Can we say, please leave us alone? We can't, because we have become more important to the world than 10 years ago, than 20 years ago. We are now the center of gravity. But that comes with responsibility, common responsibility. Because we have to really integrate. We have to really come together and set aside our individual particular interests of the 10 of us and have that vision for ourselves 2015 and beyond. One community, one vision, one identity. That is extremely difficult. But Najib, I haven't told you this when I was in the office. It is extremely difficult. Because each and every one of us is still pursuing our national agenda and interests. And I hope that you can play a more active, proactive role, leading the pack. We talk about integration. Asia is doing very well integrating us. Thank you very much, Malaysia again. Maybank is doing well. Thank you very much, Malaysia. CIMB, somebody close to you, Mr. Prime Minister, doing quite well. But there are a lot more to do between us before we can get this 2.4 trillion GDPs, 2.6 trillion trade with ourselves and with the world, really one market. Because of all the trade that we are doing, only 25% of that 2.6 trillion that we trade, only 25% we are doing it between Thailand and Malaysia, Malaysia, Singapore, Singapore, Indonesia, Indonesia, Philippines, Philippines, Brunei, whatever, among the 10 of us. 25%. And if you ask the ambassador from the US, for NAFTA, it's 48, 50% between Canada, US, and Mexico. If you look at the EU, it's 68, 70% of trade among 27 of them. We are 25. And that number will have to be increased if we want to be a community. Yes, we have reduced tariffs. Yes, our custom departments are no longer collecting a lot of tax because we are opening up for each other. Among the 6, from Brunei up to Malaysia, to Thailand, Singapore, the Philippines, and Indonesia, it's 0%, almost 0%, just a small fraction of some of the sensitive items among us and between us. But there are so many non-tariff barriers being propped up among us and between us. Unless and until we truly integrate, increase that 25% of trade among us and between us, and yes, encourage not just the banks, not just the airlines, not just the energy companies to cross borders. SMEs of ASEAN will have to cross borders into each other's economies. Because SMEs are responsible for about 80% of our employment, all of us. 75–80% of our GDP are being contributed by the SMEs. Over 30% of our export, SMEs. Unless and until they cross borders, we are not going to be integrated. And without integration, true integration, this is not going to be one market. So you have homework, Mr. Prime Minister, 2015, truly make it one market. And I think we have time to do it. We have just to transfer the fixation of our gaze from national particular interests to a higher vision on the horizon, ASEAN. Your great father have started it. It is so apt that you will be finishing it, 2015. And we are now, even though we are not quite integrated, we are the market of consumption of goods and services from around the world. 2008, when the Lehman Brothers crisis was boiling, there was ASEAN summit meeting in Beijing. Sitting in the chair in the Great Hall of the People was Prime Minister Wen Jiabao of China. Your predecessor was there, but Abdullah Badawi was there. And our colleagues from Europe, the like of Berlusconi, the like of Merkel, the like of Barroso, all leaders of Europe came to the Great Hall of the People of China. Just think about the irony. And they were appealing to China, to East Asia, please keep it coming, please keep it going, please keep it open, please continue to import from our industries and our services in Europe. David Miliband, who represented Tony Blair at that meeting, pulled me aside and said, Mr. Secretary General, this is a very, very strange meeting indeed. In the Great Hall of the People, the seat of the Communist Party of China, we from the West are now appealing to Wen Jiabao to help. That's when I realized personally the pendulum has swung to East Asia. But we have to be extremely careful to keep it here. And if you remember, Mr. Prime Minister, at the second summit in New York with Mr. Obama, he said to 10 of you, and he thought I was one of the prime ministers of East Asia. He said, let us begin, pointed to me. And I nudged Prime Minister opposite, it's you, it's not me. I'm only the secretary. I was secretary until the last 2 months. I felt like a general. So that I could talk, could speak more openly. But remember what Mr. Obama said, Mr. Prime Minister. We in America, if we want to get out of this crisis, if we want to recover from the depth of this economic downturn that we have to sell more, we have to export more. We look around, where is the market, where are the consumers? You in the East, ASEAN, and the rest of you. That's why pivoting to East Asia. The diktat and the logic of the economy. We are now the market, we are now the consumers. That's the economic part of it. But then we have the political role to play, security. ASEAN is extremely careful among ourselves. The principle of non-interference, extremely careful. But then in the age of globalization, your problems can be my problems tomorrow. There's no longer absolute sovereignty. And Malaysia could feel it. Southern Philippines, congratulations again. Southern Thailand. Myanmar, Thailand and Cambodia. That was a classic ASEAN case. Two Buddhist kingdoms fighting over a Hindu ruin, and they ask a Muslim to help. Classic ASEAN. But among ourselves, we have to achieve peace and reconciliation. And Malaysia is doing well, thank you very much, in southern Philippines. I understand the Deputy Prime Minister of Thailand came to see you, Pak Najib, and you have pledged, you want us, we will help. And they need help. And I hope you will help the way that would lead to peace and security and stability in southern Thailand. I came from there. I was born in the madrasa. My madrasa is 72 years old. Right now, 700 students. My mother, 85 years old, is still teaching. So I could feel the pressure for a lot of us about the future. How are we going to survive in the ASEAN community, full of opportunities, but tremendous competition? Those in Malaysia, you have the government, state and federal. Those in Indonesia, you have the government, federal and regional. But there are those pockets who need help, and I hope you will extend your hands. But we have to play also that rightful role contribution into the global community, and we are doing it. At any one point, any day, we have over 5,000 of our peacekeepers in the hot spots of the world. Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Singapore. Because we know that that is our role. Because we want to be good citizens of the world. And we are the only regional organization next to the EU, successful. Of all the things that people say about ASEAN, we are second to none but the EU. But we are different. The EU can be our inspiration, but it cannot be our model because of the diversity among us. But even that, we are making our contributions to the rest of the global community. The success of this organization, of East Asia in general, are not going to be how much we produce, how much we export, how much we accumulate, how much foreign exchange we put in our national coffers. It's how much we help the world. And again, Malaysia is doing your job. I consider your diplomacy, Pak Najib, Malaysia's diplomacy, and Indonesia's diplomacy is diplomacy of defiance. You had to defy against something to come into being as a nation. Colonialism, communism. And you made the right decision from the very beginning that you would be leading the third world, that you would be active in the group of 77 and China, that you would be active in the non-ally movement. The skills and the expertise that you have learned and accumulated through your diplomatic engagement are now serving you well. Well, as a Thai, I can say something about Thai diplomacy. It's diplomacy of accommodation. Never been colonized, accommodate everyone, hasn't had to struggle. Is the Thai ambassador here? Therefore, the profile is a bit less active than Malaysia's, than Indonesia's, than Singapore's. It's diplomacy of accommodation. But ASEAN needs diplomacy of defiance, like yours. That's why we defied the world about Myanmar. That's why from the beginning it's constructive engagement. Engage in order to help. By the way, Ambassador, the phrase constructive engagement was borrowed from the British in their engagement with South Africa during the time of apartheid. We could not disengage because we would close our options to influence. That's the British argument. When ASEAN said the same thing in 1997, Myanmar was admitted here, by the way, under Pak Mahathir. Another first that you have made for ASEAN. When we adopted the same phrase, constructive engagement, Europeans, the Americans are saying, that's a cop-out. And look at what happened. It is opening up, it is being transformed, it is going through a series of reforms. I went in the middle of February last year, about a month and a half before the by-elections, before Mrs. Aung San Suu Kyi decided to join in. And in part of the discussions with the president, I said, you can't do less than what you did in November 2010 when you invited Yangon-based diplomats of ASEAN and UN agencies to observe your elections. You can't do less than that. This time, you should invite people relevant, responsible for elections from the capitals of ASEAN. And if you can, please invite the reporters, the media, because you will be our chair in the year 2014. People of ASEAN deserve to know what you are doing. Well, he went one step ahead of my advice, my suggestion, my appeal. Not only people in the electoral commissions of ASEAN, but members of parliaments from ASEAN. And became probably the first country that was willing and open and happy to open the electoral process for external observers. And now Madame Aung San Suu Kyi is in. That's the way in which ASEAN has been doing here in the region. And I think ASEAN should do more around the world, contributing our own expertise, our own way, the ASEAN way, our own experiences into some of the problems, some of the issues around the world. And we should not be shy about this, because that's the contribution that the world needs. African Union would like to know more about what ASEAN is doing economically, because they think we are doing well, and yes, we are doing quite well. The EU would like to see us more active and engaged in the global community. The US is the same, the UN is the same, would like to see ASEAN being involved, being active, being engaged on the global landscape, on the issues of security, issue of stability, issue of political nature. And last year in Bali, the year before, November 2011, we have come up with a declaration that in 10 years' time from then, actually it was 11, which means 2022, ASEAN will endeavor to have common positions on major issues facing the global community. I don't know if we are thinking about one foreign minister for ASEAN. I'm not campaigning for that either, I'll be too old. I don't know if we are talking about one security defense secretary for ASEAN, but certainly we are looking ahead. 2022, we shall have common positions on many, many of these global issues. And I have to thank Malaysia for breaking that path leading into the global community. I'm reluctant to say this, but I think I have to say it in this audience. Mr. Ambassador, the road to reconciliation between the West and the Muslim world, Muslim Ummah, may very well run through Southeast Asia, ASEAN. Here. Because a lot of our friends in the Middle East came here and look at Kuala Lumpur, look at your skyline, look at your shopping centers, look at your educational institutions, look at your industry, look at your telecommunication, and they said, MashaAllah, this is what we wanted. But can I humbly say this? Modernity is different from development. What's going on in the heartland of Islam is modernity. If you have money, you can buy anything, the latest gadget. But here, Pak Najib, you have development. Because you don't do the digging of the earth down to exploit the natural resources. You dig into the minds of the people and you instill skills and knowledge. That's development. And I've been telling my people in southern Thailand, when the Quran said in Surah Al-Jum'ah, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله. After Jum'at, spread on the land of Allah and seek and harvest all the blessings and the resources. Min fadlillah. The question is this. 20, 30 years ago, when we were agrarian, you have simple utensils. You can dig, you can explore, you can harvest fadlullah, blessings of Allah. Now you have to dig down 10 kilometers below the bed of the sea. If you don't have this, you can't do it. So the dictum of the Quran is always relevant if you take it seriously with your own wisdom and trying to read it as it is speaking to yourself. فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ. If you don't have petroleum technology, diploma, degrees, if you don't come to Mara University. If you don't go to Ohio, Athens, and 35 years of cooperation, you have evolved from the agrarian society to a knowledge-based society. Alhamdulillah. And I'm reluctant to say this. You go to the Gulf, they call themselves a new Andalusia. It's petro money. It's the purchasing power that comes from one commodity. There is no diversity. There is no agriculture. There is no technology. There is no everything. You can follow the line of that wealth, and it goes into the earth, it goes into the desert, it goes into the depth of the water. And who is doing it? Who is digging it? Who is marketing it? Who is managing it? Not Malaysians, like you are doing in your economy. So, Mr. Jones, can you report to the White House? The road to reconciliation between the West and the Muslim world runs through Southeast Asia, Kuala Lumpur, Mara. I'm sure the Prime Minister will be ready to help coach this conversation and this dialogue, because we are very much committed to the not only one Malaysia is fine, but one humanity. Half of ASEAN will be Muslim. Do I have to say, excuse me for that? Or should I say, congratulations? Definitely half will be speaking Malay. But of all this diversity, we know that there is one humanity. Inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu. We created you from one man, one woman, and made you into various tribes, various nations, lita'arafu, so that you will learn, you will know each other. But inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, the best among you in the sight of Allah are those who fear Him, who love Him, who submit to His will. Inspired by that message, I think there are a lot of Muslim leaders in the global movement of the moderates, initiated by Pak Najib, who would want to engage with the West, who would want to dialogue with the West for a better world, for a more secure world, for a more prosperous world. And for that, your Tun Razak chair has made a contribution. And for that, I want to congratulate the Prime Minister for having the best of both worlds. Prime Minister of Malaysia, doctorate degree in humane letters from Ohio University. Congratulations, sir. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih. Thank you, Khop Kun Khap. Apa kata kita semua tepukkan kuat-kuat sekali. Let's give him a big round of applause. Our very distinguished speaker, Dr. Surin Pitsuwan.